First of all, let's stipulate, thank God that they do, right? Because without that, it provides such great grist for my mill. Where would we be, okay? Where would we be in the media? So thank God that they do, and thank God that Senator Levin, has subpoena power, dredges all that up, and makes it available.
As we saw in the most recent hearing concerning the JP Morgan and the London Well.
Goldman Sachs 3 years earlier. So, I mean, it just is a very important part of the historical record. On the other hand, you really got to ask yourself why people continue to do this. And it's not just the Wall Street firms, it's lawyers, as was pointed out, in this suit against DLA Piper, which I think is just fascinating. And it's the LIBOR scandal.
This
bankers.
Is the DLA Piper. Let's talk for a moment about that, because it's something that people aren't nearly as familiar with as they are, for example, with the London Whale scandal and Goldman Sachs, being hauled before Senator Levin over the abacus trade.
Correct. So basically, there was a client of DLA Piper who was an energy entrepreneur who, DLA thinks owes them $675,000 in unpaid fees, and so they sued him for that. And then he turned around and said, "Oh, by the way, you've been busy overcharging me, and so I'm not going to pay it." And then, he got access in part of Discovery, all of these emails that just sort of laid out the fact that, well, it certainly seemed like they wanted to overcharge.
The lawyers were talking about overcharging
him. Now, DLA has since put out a statement saying, that was all a joke and probably not a good one, and those lawyers are now gone. But nevertheless, you really got to ask yourself, can this really be showing up in emails?
Well, maybe it's stupid, and maybe it gives us good fodder and leads to some of these cases. But so far, it hasn't really led to much in the way of criminal investigations or any wrongdoing. I mean, look at where we are. Is this really vindicating people from financial crisis?
Let's separate here. In terms of what forced Wall Street into a collapse situation that hurt our economy, you're right. There's not been any prosecutions. But as we know, Preet Bharara has been busy, prosecuting insider trading. A lot of that has been email traffic. A lot of that has been, tapes. Wiretapping, which is a new innovation in terms of...
I guess what I'm getting at is how damning are these emails? Maybe they're stupid, maybe they're embarrassing, but do they really suggest a lot of criminal activity?
Well, I think that, criminal activity is something that lawyers and prosecutors have to judge, and courts and juries and things like that. If you look at the traffic in the LIBOR cases, that is incredibly damaging. It resulted in huge fines, people losing their jobs.
Criminal plea on the part of a UBS unit?
Criminal pleas on the parts of units. You can argue about whether the whole firm should be, have a criminal indictment. That's another matter. I don't know why they haven't been. They look pretty damning to me. They look pretty criminal to me, but, I'm not a lawyer.
Bill, what are the chances that Wall Street has learned its lesson and that people will take a cue from Goldman Sachs, notwithstanding the Levin hearing and the emails produced,
LDL.
And embrace,
LDL.
LDL. Let's do this live.
Let's do this live. Clearly, Goldman has, but fortunately for me, not fully, because a lot of good stuff.
Again, where would you be?
Where would I be? You know what? I just don't think it's human nature. I think people think it's just something that'll never. They don't think in terms of a year or two from now that this will get dredged up as part of a lawsuit.
Really, that there aren't general counsels at investment banks, commercial banks, hedge funds, private equity firms.
This all the time.
Right, in a live setting as opposed to a taped, or transcribed setting, saying, look, come on, guys, let's really, don't put this in email.
How would you, it's a simple thing. How do you feel if this is on the front page of the New York Times? Do you want your emails, even if you're, ruminating and joking, on the front page of the New York Times? If you can't pass that test, don't do it.
Well, to Eric's point, I wonder how much compliance officers are really stepping it up, telling employees what to do and how to act.
Well, clearly not enough, right? Clearly not enough, or they're being disobeyed. It's just unbelievable, the avalanche between, the Levin documents, the LIBOR stuff, this DLA stuff. It's amazing to me.
So here's a question for you. What should the shareholder view be? Should shareholders be wanting this stuff to be kept out of email, and as a result, these kinds of things won't be dredged up in Discovery, and firms like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan won't face litigation?
Well, I guess if you're a shareholder, you probably do want that. If you're a fan of,
but that would kind of mean that you're condoning bad behavior.
Right. Well, the bad behavior is going to be going on no matter what. It's a question of whether or not you document it in emails that can later be discovered. Once upon a time there weren't emails, right? And that could be found in Discovery, and there's still lots of criminal behavior going on once upon a time. So the behavior is going to be bad.
Back then, people actually went to jail.
Yes, in fact, they did. 3,500 of them after the savings and loan crisis, in fact. This time, not so many.
Let's go through Eric's email next.
Nobody wants their email to go through, I'm sure, but something to think about.
Sarah has just extended the invitation,
Okay,
Bill. I guess
let's-
you're going to have to meet me at my
we can do
desk
it.
after the show and go through my email.